Welcome back to the Agent Workforce Show, where we explore the surprising ways AI is changing the game. How was that for an opening line, Niko?
It sounds somehow familiar. I wonder why that is.
Yeah, me too. Maybe I picked it up from Sesame from last episode. So, hi all. My name is Kristiina I'm head of marketing at Digital Workforce, and together with me is Niko Lehtonen, and this is the Agent Workforce podcast, where we'll explore everything related to AI agents and generative AI in general. So, how are you doing, Niko? Are you in Stockholm today?
Yes, coming to you live from our Stockholm office. I came here this morning because there's a hackathon starting today that I'm taking a part of, and yeah, looking forward to seeing how that goes. It's going to be quite an interesting one for 3 days.
Sure. Yeah, nice. I also was privileged today give a lecture on AI in marketing and sales in particular, and that one my mind is again like buzzing around all the use cases and what's going to happen in AI, particularly in marketing and sales in the future. Maybe we'll do a special episode on that topic in the future. But today, let's dive into some of the statements that Dario Amodei has made recently, and also to a term called vibe coding. What does it mean? Then we'll look at some of the updates, particularly from Google this time, and some other nice things as well. So let's get started. Dario Amodei, who's CEO of Anthropic, said recently, Monday this week, actually, on at Council of Foreign Relations event that, quote, "I think we will be there in 6 months where AI is writing 90% of the code. And then in 12 months, we may be in a world where AI is writing essentially all of the code." So Amodei said that software developers would still have a role to play in the near term. And this is because humans will have to feed the AI models with design features and conditions, he said. So we have a pretty provocative statement here. So what does this mean for software engineers? We are seeing a lot of these news and hearing a lot of these statements now. So what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, um, well, first of all, I guess the first thought comes to mind is that it doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be 90% less coding by people. I guess it just means that the ratio is going to change. Maybe programming becomes 10 times more common. It's just that AI handles 9/10, and then humans do about the same amount as they have before. It's more accessible than ever. And Andrew NG, who, for instance, runs the deep learning of AI training website that I can highly recommend, said that these kinds of statements don't mean that you shouldn't take up coding or programming at this point. It's just going to get more and more common programming and coding yourself and with these coding assistants like Cursor and so on, so that it's never been more relevant to pick up programming if you've not done it before, because it's really going to be useful, judging by how these tools work these days.
Yeah, that's a positive take on it. Obviously, some people do think that this will have a massive impact in the work of software engineers and how many software engineers will be there in the future. But this takes us to another trending term at the moment. So everybody's talking about vibe coding. That has been the main topic of many of the podcasts recently in the past few weeks. So let's talk a little bit about this as well. And Andrei Karpathy, to whom we referred to in our last episode, where I shared the YouTube video about how he is using LLMs currently. So the same guy wrote on X, this was on the 3rd of February, that quote, "There's a new kind of coding I call vibe coding, where you fully give into the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget that the code even exists. It's possible because LLMs, for example, Cursor Composer or Sonnet, are getting too good. Also, I just talked to Composer with Super Whisper, so I barely even touch the keyboard. I asked for the dumbest thing like decrease the padding on the sidebar by half because I'm too lazy to find it. I accept all always. I don't read the diffs anymore. When I get error messages, I just copy paste them in with no comment. Usually that fixes it. The code grows beyond my usual comprehension. I'd have to really read through it for a while. Sometimes the LLMs can't fix a bug, so I just work around or ask it for random changes until it goes away. It's not too bad for throwaway weekend projects, but still quite amusing. I'm building a project or web app, but it's not really coding. I just see stuff, say stuff, run stuff, and copy paste stuff, and it mostly works. That's what Karpati wrote on vibe coding, which is all over now. Everybody's talking about vibe coding. Have you tried vibe coding, Niko?
Yeah, I have. I thought the term would change in the near future, but so far, I guess web coding is the one we're using. The yeah, Cursor is really really good. I'm not a software developer. I dabble in code, of course, because of all the low code and pro code tools that we are using to automate processes and so on. And I was just trying it for a couple of small projects. I had to start somewhere, so I tested how it's gonna make me a three-dimensional tic-tac-toe. So instead of 3 by 3, you have a 3 by 3 by 3. And what kind of instructions do I need to give it, and so on. It took a while, let's say maybe an hour, to get it to where I was somewhat satisfied with the outcome, that it actually worked and had all the start screens and end screens. I didn't touch a single line of code. I only used, as they say, the programming language of English, and that was it. It is really impressive what you can do, and when you run your app through Cursor, if it crashes, or even if it doesn't crash, it's still going to recognize bugs within the code. And as soon as you quit the program, Cursor is just going to say, oh, let me just fix that and that and that. And actually, I noticed that these kinds of features are typically in these kinds of programs and they are missing. Should we add these as well? Then you just go, yes, and it'll do all that. So it's not just reactive, it's also proactive in many ways. And that is really impressive.
Hard to imagine a role as a software developer now where you wouldn't be using tools like this to really assist you in the work you're doing. Another example of vibe coding, trendy one, is Lovable. They come from Sweden, and in one of the most recent interviews at 20 VC podcast with Harry Stebbings, he was interviewing Anton Osaka, who's the CEO of Lovable. And Lovable is the Europe's fastest growing startup currently, and they're adding 2 million of annual revenue, recurring revenue every week. So that is just unbelievable. And they launched the product in November. And so they are growing super, super fast. And Lovable is an AI powered platform that enables users to create software products by describing their ideas through prompts, which then AI translates into functional code. It could be like applications or websites. And so practically you could do early versions of SaaS businesses without a team. And the co-founder, Anton Osaka, developed Lovable to leverage the potential of large language models like ChatGPT, and it has a predecessor of GPT called GPT Engineer, and they now integrate APIs from OpenAI and Google, Gemini, Anthropic's Claude, and so forth. And it is like a super, super fast growing. And our team is currently testing this and seeing how it compares to the other like tools and website development, but it's mind-blowing the speed of growth that these companies now have, these AI native companies that are growing into incredible annual recurring revenue with just a few employees. And this is what the reports have said as well, that AI native companies are superseding the growth rate of SaaS companies in the past by far. And there's actually a leaderboard. It's called leanAIleaderboard.com, where you can check some of these AI native, super fast growing companies employing just a few or dozens of employees as of now. So yeah, but this makes me think that now that anyone can turn into a vibe coder, I could turn into a vibe coder. I don't know how to code. I'm not a technical by background. So what will happen when all us non-tech people will start building like massively these products, and we can't necessarily know how to maintain or fix them, and what if things go sour, they go wrong, so how do we fix them? So will this actually in the end mean more work for developers? So what will happen? What do you think of this?
Yeah, I was actually just having lunch with a old friend here in Stockholm, and she was telling me about how they're also incorporating AI tools now in their work. She's an architect, and the biggest problem people tend to have with these kinds of tools, any kinds of tools that generate these kind of things, is you need to know what you want to get out of it. So the first thing is to have the vision, to know what you want, and the second thing is to have the knowledge of understanding whether what you just got is exactly what you asked for and does it comply with the requirements that you have. For instance, if you're creating building blocks for, larger software application development projects, for instance. And I think that's the main issue, I guess, in a way, that there will be people who don't grasp all the requirements that you need to fulfill to build these kinds of building blocks or whole application systems. But I would presume that the more familiar you are with building these kinds of things, if you're a senior software developer who's used to building enterprise grade applications, then you know what you need to do. And using Cursor, for instance, is just going to make that faster for you. But it will require, very likely, you will need to touch the code to make it comply with what you want to get out, to get something that really works for you and for your project. So it's different from vibe coding, but vibe coding probably gets you 60% there at least, or something like that. And then the rest is polishing. Maybe you prompt it a bit more. And at some point, you will have to touch the code to check all the dependencies and how it fits with the big project. But yeah.
But incredibly inspiring, though, to see how these things turn out to be on your screen when you just type in the commands and prompts, and then you start seeing things happen. So it is inspiring for sure. All right. Some major updates this week have been received from Google. They made an update, for instance, to their deep research. That was the first one that was announced of the deep research functionalities before OpenAI and the others. And it has got an update now. I haven't noticed a big difference, but the big difference I have seen comes from Google AI Studio side. So they launched image generation for Gemini 2.0 Flash Experimental, which is the first frontier class LLM with native image generation. And in addition to that, in the Google AI Studio, I can now put in a link to a YouTube video, which I did. That was our latest podcast episode before this one. And I asked for feedback from our conversation. So directly from the audio stream, not transcribing that first to a text, but I wanted to give us feedback. So about our pronunciation, how we do the conversation in the podcast and things like this. And I haven't found a way to do that before with the LLMs. And this was the first time I managed to do it. And I thought that was just amazing. So practically insert any YouTube video and get the feedback in that. Probably would have given that even from the video, but I only stick to the audio at this point. And another major update, as said, is regarding this image generation. I played around with this functionality over the weekend. So I added a picture of our living room with all the furniture in place. I asked it to remove all the furniture and then just redecorate it with certain prompts. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty nice. And it gave me some amazing ideas about interior design and how I could actually design the living room differently. So quite cool. Have you tried that yourself?
I haven't, but that does give me some ideas. Maybe I could use that to build some image assets for my next Cursor project. If I want to make a game or something, I could use that to generate the assets and then link them to the Cursor project and elevate that.
Give it a try. I recall you mentioned you have a tip for us when it comes to testing different models.
Yes.
Would you like to share that?
Yes. So similarly, as you said, you were lecturing about AI tools in marketing. I also lecture a bit, but mine is about automation. And I just held the last lecture last Thursday, and I gave the students a task. The task was to use LM Arena. So lmarena.ai, as you can see on the screen here, is a website where you can test different large language models against each other or individually and so on. So there's a blind test option where you can just type in a prompt and it'll pick two random large language models. It won't tell you what they are. Let's see. Tell me about the
Vibe coding.
Okay, let's go vibe coding. And yeah, let's see what these large language models have to say. So there's 90 different models currently. I checked this number last week. Let's refresh the page and see what happens. I tested this just late last week, and
You've used it too much.
there were fewer models at that point.
Okay.
So they really update this quickly, and Gemini 2.0 Flash, for instance, is already here. Let's try again. Tell me about vibe coding. It might take a while depending on the language models used here, but let's see. The point of this blind test is that you can compare these prompts, and then once you've gone through them, you're probably going to be more satisfied with one of them, in which case you vote which one is better, and at that point it reveals what kind of language models you were using. Judging by this, let's see if this is anything like it should be. It is quite similar both ways, but this is more about being in the correct mindset for programming rather than the
Picking up
newer
the term
stuff.
biker. Yeah.
Yeah. But let's say B is better. And now it's telling us that B was GPT 4.5. And the other one was P2L, which I've never heard of. But yeah. Anyway, there's a battle, so you can blind test, but probably other ones you want to use is Arena side by side, where you can choose which language models you want to put against one another. Or then there's just direct chat where you can just use the model you want to interact with. The fun thing is you can also do text to image. So you can, I'm not going to create images now, but you can write a prompt here and it'll fetch two models that are going to create an image for you. Again, you can vote for which one is better. And you can do the same one in the direct chat. You can also give an image as context and ask the models to analyze it. So you can test different functionalities of these large language models and find ones that might work for your purpose. But of course, currently, at least LM Arena uses the prompts for their own purposes. So don't input any customer data or sensitive data in here. You can still find a way to make it work. Yeah, so this is a really, really useful website. And as mentioned, they update it fairly often. Last update came either early this week or late last week. Highly
Pick
recommend it for
two.
anyone who's...
Does it
Sorry?
pick two? Does it pick two? Only two randomly? Or can you like...
Yes, always. It's just compare to. It's no more than that. But the good thing is you don't have to register to any websites. You don't have to register to, OpenAI's website or Anthropic's websites or anything. You can use these straight here in the sandbox environment, no questions asked, and it'll save you a lot of time and trouble.
Oh, I need to give it a try. I just looked back. This was 2 weeks ago. I shared on LinkedIn my fun AI test. It's the same test I've been running across different models and on new updates when they are made. And I haven't tested this now with the Google's latest one, nor with this platform, but I took a screenshot once on Instagram because there was this funny reel about attractiveness index in Europe. So basically, it was a map of Europe, the countries, and with different attractiveness index. So color-coded map of European countries, and then some explanations of what color means, what attractiveness index, and so forth. And I thought it was quite funny. And Swedes, and they are gorgeous, we're at the top. And Finns, who are a neighboring country to the Swedes, were not so much. And I found this really, really funny. So I've been sharing this image with the models, and none of the models have nailed it so far. So I've gone through like ChatGPT 4.0, 01, 03, 01 Pro, Claude 3.5, 3.7, Gemini 1.5, 2.0, Grok 3, and so forth. And there are just incredibly bad results. some do better than the others, but none of the models has been able to nail this yet. So I need to give this a try, maybe with your tip as well. And then I'm definitely going to try this with the Google's latest update as well. But yeah, I guess that. But it's anyhow, jokes aside, like I said, but it's good to have these same tests all over again to see how the progress is going. So you can actually see how the models are getting better or sometimes worse.
Yeah.
Depends.
Yeah, sounds good. And I guess I should feel better now that everybody thinks I'm Swedish when I'm around here.
Oh, that's very flattering. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Niko. I think that's all for now. I wish you a wonderful hackathon there in Stockholm. Wish you a good 2 days ahead, and thanks all for listening in. And if you haven't done so yet, go and check our courses, agentacademy.ai, where we have a free course for understanding agentic AI, and then an advanced course for the analyst, and something new coming up soon as well. But yeah, I think that's all for now. And thank you all. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.